Jim Jones, from rapper to podcaster.
Now, Jim Jones, he has a couple of new podcasts. I believe it's Artist to Artist and Let's Rap About It. And I took in those shows, and after taking both of them in, I was like, you know what? I think Jim Jones found his lane. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I was always, I was a fan of Jim Jones because he always was the dude that did whatever had to be done in order to get to where he needed to be. Meaning to say that, in the beginning he couldn't rap, so he taught himself. Well, along with Mace and Cameron, he learned how to rap, became pretty decent at it. But unfortunately, he became extremely good at a later, just recently, last couple of years. So, and he's almost 50, so that's not really the lane you should be going towards if you want to rap, because hip hop is a young man's sport. You know what I mean? So, and I said to myself, okay, arguably, when you think about it, Jim Jones has been like a master of fashion. You know what I mean? Like, he was the first one to rock the true religion stuff. You know what I mean? He was the first one to take the biker chain, that attaches to the wallet and the pants, and make it fly, make it dope. You know what I mean? Like, he was able to put certain colors together. You know what I mean? Out of the whole Diplomats, I would say out of the whole Rockefeller, Jim Jones had the best style. You know what I mean? There's a reason why Kanye, I think last year, wanted to work with Jim Jones when it came to fashion and style and all that kind of stuff. Jim Jones, arguably, I could sit here and say arguably, this dude is probably, one of the best designers out there, or fashion sense in hip hop. You know what I mean? You can't deny it. You can't deny it. He's always dope. He's always having putting things that nobody would ever put together, and they still look fly. You know what I mean? Now, Kanye is probably obviously the biggest fashion dude coming out of Rockefeller and Rachel Roy, but Jim Jones is like organic. You know what I mean? Like, he actually is a designer, opposed to Kanye putting his name on a blank t-shirt. You know what I mean? So, and that's no disrespect to Kanye, but I remember I said that about Jim a while ago, and he got upset. He sent a message telling me a whole bunch of reckless stuff, but I truly meant well with what I said. Pretty much, to paraphrase it, I pretty much said, Jim Jones, rapping's not the thing. You know what I mean? You should not be concentrating on that. You should be concentrating on fashion. But after also watching these podcasts that Jim Jones, his podcast, right? After watching them, you start realizing this guy is a natural when it comes to podcasting. You see an element of Jim that you probably never seen before. He's vulnerable, he's truthful, he's very articulate. That's another thing that stands out in these podcasts. You know what I mean? So Jim is one of those dudes that is super talented. It's like a hybrid. You know what I mean? I believe even in Rockefeller, dude was designing. He was, stage manager. He was engineering. He was recording. He was shooting videos. He was directing. He was editing. He was pretty much doing everything, like a hybrid. But he never got the respect that he should have got. You know what I mean? Even when he wasn't the best rapper in the whole group, the whole Dipset or even Rockefeller probably, he still managed to, pull out a couple of tricks in his bag, you know what I mean, with Balling and, a couple of #1 hits there, a couple classic tracks. So you never count Jim out, So watching these podcasts made me realize that as talented as Jim is in the fashion world, he's also has a natural super talent with a podcast realm. And when I take it in a little bit further, you know, I put him in the category at a very early age, at a very early stage. I put him in the categories of probably you know, Gilly and Wilo, or even Nori with Drink Champs, right? It's brand new, no doubt, but you could see exactly if Jim continues to go that route, that route in the podcast route, he is gonna be that, you know, he is gonna be up there with a Joe Budden, you know. He's definitely a natural when it comes to that kind of stuff. And you know, I urge Jim to just continue that round. You know what I mean? Like, I could see him developing these podcasts to the point where, you know, you're gonna have major companies, Spotify or whoever, or you know, iHeartRadio, whatever, offering him tens of millions of dollars for a show. I could definitely see that big time. So, you know, regardless what, I hope this doesn't come off as I'm dissing Jim or anything like that, but I honestly want to be truthful when I see talent. You know what I mean? When I see talent, I definitely want to be truthful, because a lot of people, you know, they grew up on Jim. So they grew up on Jim's rapping and all that kind of stuff, but you know, I'm still the same thing I said before a couple months ago. Jim is nice when it comes to rapping, but he should be concentrating on fashion, because in fashion, I could see Jim being probably top 3 hip hop dudes in fashion right now. Podcasting, I could see that too, big time. Top 3, even number 1, depending how, you know, how like committed he wants to be, right? But rapping, you know, I don't see that. You know, I don't see top 10. I don't see top 20. I don't even see top 30 or 40. But that's just it. It's an opinion base, right? But at the same time, I believe a lot of people do feel the same way I feel, in terms of he's a good rapper, but he's not in the top 5, you know. But arguably, I challenge anybody to bring up 4 other hip hop dudes that have a better fashion sense. You know, I argue anybody to, you know, go watch Jim's shows, go watch Jim's podcast, and honestly tell me if you could pick 4 other podcasts that are better than him. You know, it's gonna be hard.